Hello, let's talk about self-esteem. Well, I'm an old guy, and I can remember being looked down on or not liked or made fun of because they thought I was too smart or because they thought I was too dumb, because I was too skinny, and now I'm too fat. So, what is self-esteem? And do we really need it? I don't think we do. I think you just need to be you. And when you're you, you're not ruled by everybody else's opinion. You're just being yourself. Now, whether you fit in, that's something you can do, but that doesn't have anything to do with your self-esteem. It shouldn't. Just learn to fit in. That's it. There's also a thing called self-transcendence. Well, that's just you being creative and imagining who you are, imagining your life. And there's value to that. And yet still, there's no self-esteem problem there, because if you're imagining your life accurately, you have to understand that you're the hero, you're the star in the book or the movie of your life. And that doesn't change. And yeah, you may have some problems that are more internal and some that are more external. Well, you're not any of those problems. You're the one dealing with them, and that makes you a hero. Doing the best that you can in your life. And of course, you don't have to worry about that, because your brain will do that. And it's just a matter of dealing with those things that keep you from your optimal self. And what are those things? Well, they're not things that were really your choice. There's lack of education. You can always improve that. And there are these pesky things inside you that seems like no matter what you do, you make these same errors over and over again. Or you have these depressive views and so on that you can't cope with, or you're overly anxious and so on. Well, this has more to do with a sense of health, and it's not your self-esteem. What you need to do there is to go into a deep introspection. You have three basic introspections that are based on your everyday life. There's a relationship between yourself and yourself. There's a relationship between yourself and others. And there's a relationship between yourself living your life and that part of you that views your life, which in yoga is called the witness self. And in Buddhism it's referred to as mindfulness. So, with mindfulness, we have this ability to be conscious of things that have happened to us or that we think might happen, and be detached from it a little bit. In other words, safe from it. This is very useful in terms of getting rid of anxieties. So if there are some things that are a little difficult to change, that are something that everybody copes with or suffer from, and that's any kind of learned helplessness around your needs and your feelings, and even in the future your desires. Well, how do we get around those anxieties or depressions that keep us from connecting to that optimal self that we are, or could be, which in Buddhism is the Buddha nature. Some in Christianity call it the Christ nature. In Hinduism it might be the Paramatma, the super soul, which is also the witness self. Well, how do you embrace that? How do you overcome those things? Well, you play them out in your mind. You go back, and if there was something, especially the hardest things here, this learned helplessness that you have because of trauma or deprivation. It's a lighter helplessness when you're talking about something that you think might happen, but it's still a feeling of helplessness. Some of that helplessness that you can connect to and might remember in your life is times of grief. Because when you have a big loss, there's also always a feeling of helplessness, that nobody wants a loss, and yet it happens. So really to unlearn that helplessness is to embrace that witness self. But while you're very mindful of what happened to you or what you think might happen, and being mindful, it isn't, you heard about mindfulness, you can do it while you're walking, you can do it while you're breathing, while you're sitting, while you're doing any chore. Well, let's take that to the imagination and to the inner experience and to communication. A lot of people say that verbiage in your mind is the monkey mind, and you have to get past that. Well, you can be mindful of the monkey mind. You can be mindful also while you're re-experiencing a trauma. That means you're safe. If you're not mindful of it, you're just, you're torturing yourself. But if you can be mindful of it, you can unlearn that helplessness. Because right now you're safe, right? course, you can't do this if you're in the presence of real helplessness. That's not possible. You're already overloaded. Try to get out of the situation. But when you're safe, then you can do that. Well, the trick to doing that is to do it as you're able to handle it, and there's a pathway. And those communications I talked to you about that you can be mindful of while you're having are these feedback loops between communication between yourself and yourself, which essentially is your experiencing self, a part of you that's a little more emotional and caught up in the drama of your life, and that objective you that can understand you and plan for your future. And that inner dialogue, you can call it the little you and the big you. That's very important to have that conversation and be mindful that you're having that conversation. Just a sense of safety while you're doing it. That means that you are being mindful. If it's too upsetting, in other words, you're caught up in it, go with the feeling and be mindful of it. Be mindful of your expression. And stay safe that way. If you're going to deal with the communication between yourself and others, that usually takes you, well, to communicate you have to care. So these are also expressions of love. So when you're communicating with others in your mind, you're using empathy. You're communicating with people you care about or who you should care about, or with people with whom, that care about you or who should care about you. And this can have a lot of different emotions attached. You might be angry, and that's okay. Just be mindful. Express that anger. You can express emotion and be mindful at the same time. You can. If you're feeling safe, that means you are being sufficiently mindful. So, and usually there will be some degree of, over time, of insight that occurs. Because this is a deep introspection. Alright? That's your communication between yourself and others. That emotional you communicating with others. But the thing is, when you're talking, you're changing. You're being empathetic when you're talking to people you care about or you should care about. You're attempting empathy. And yet, it's still a communication between empathy and yourself, except that in this case, yourself as the emotional you is in the guise of other people. When you're being the emotional you and talking to people you care about and so on, those images of people who care about you are also images of you. Right? In the guise of others. this is your imagination you're in. And your mind, your own mind. Everything there is you. It's the you of your brain. And when you're doing this kind of communication with others in public, it's the same thing. There's something going on in real life, but at the same time, there's something going on in your mind. So you can be mindful when you're trying to communicate with others in your daily life, just as you are doing it in your imagination. It's always more powerful if you do it out loud in your imagination. How can you be mindful of your expressions if you're not expressing? So, let's go on to communicating with your higher self. Some people call it a part of you that can be outside of your life, that can create experiences for you. You might have experienced others who want to create a guided meditation for you. Really? Especially if they're doing it en masse, with a whole lot of people. Taking everybody to the seashore. Even some who are afraid of water. And some who just don't want to go there. Create your own. Create your own guided meditations. And that's part of how you communicate from the higher self perspective. And ask your brain, your higher self, excellent, to show you what you need to see, and help you hear what you need to hear, and so on. And you may then experience some help in your own guided meditation, which is a very mindful sort of thing to do. Now, when I mentioned the seashore and those afraid of water, nothing in these dialogues is about trying to find things that are not comfortable to you. All of these attempts are done to help you feel better. The thing is, if you do all of these things, and you do truly deep introspection, a mindful introspection, and expression, you will encounter those times of helplessness and those feelings of helplessness, and but you'll be unlearning that helplessness. You'll be knowing that you're not really helpless now. There are things you can do. And now you will be. Here's the trick. When people think they're self-directed and well, nobody really is, but we'll go into that another day. But when you keep doing the same dumb things over and over again, that's because that learned helplessness in you is connected to needs and their expression and even feeling them in an expressive way. So if you were helpless to be angry at some point, this process will help you to feel that anger that you were once helpless to express in a safe way. You can feel it, you can express it, and instead of making it worse, it'll get better because you're unlearning helplessness. If you're purposely going to make yourself angry, you're just going to become a more angry person. So it's very different. But it's that attempt to comfort that means that you are not jumping over to negative expressions and experiences that aren't needing attention, that aren't a part of that helplessness. Also, if you keep doing dumb things, it's because when your needs are associated with helplessness, you search for symbols of that need, things that make you feel better, things that are similar in some way in your mind to those needs. And, it's like if you didn't feel a great deal of love from your parents, but they made great food, and they showed you attention then, you might mistake that deeper need, which might have been to be hugged or to feel safe or to be held or whatever, to feel that warmth and so on, with food. Trouble is, you can never eat enough food to satisfy yourself in that case because you're trying to fulfill a symbolic need, and you can't do that. That's a temporary fix, an addiction. So does this all relate to addictions? Yeah, it does. Because it's that helplessness that fuels the addictions. It's that helplessness that is a big part of PTSD as well. And with PTSD, you have to be very careful. But you also have to be careful about any deeper psychological problems. Be gentle with yourself, in other words. Look for comfort. Any reliving of a time of helplessness will come when you feel safe. And it's time a time where you're able to feel that. These things will trigger those things. These forms of comfort and inner dialogue will trigger those things. Tend to trigger them when you're ready. And don't let anybody tell you your process should be faster or slower or whatever's right for you. If you're having a lot of depression or anxiety and this isn't working, you might need some extra help. There's nothing wrong with that. Go get it. So, this is kind of an advanced Buddhism, I guess you would call it. It's non-superstitious, practical. There is a deeper level. Helplessness that occurred at a time when you were pre-language. You didn't even have a language or words to express or help you to cope with what happened to you. And I hate to put it this way, but that could be rootless terror. You want to be careful mucking about with things that bring you to a pre-language state. A little of that's fine, bodily awareness and a little bit. I don't do a lot of that. Do enough of that so that you feel better. And again, something that helps you feel comfortable, something you're pushing or straining to do, like long periods of meditation. That can be bad. It's a kind of virtual sensory deprivation. And it isn't something you just want to do constantly and forever. And recommended is like 5, maybe 15 minutes a day. But it's all up to you. I don't do those sort of things. Well, let's talk about the other two ways that will trigger the pre-verbal awareness in you, which can hook up to helplessness from before you had words. One is deep breathing, where you're breathing in and out to connect, especially to connect to your emotions, which there's ways of doing that are safer and more verbally prone when you're adding sound and so on. But in general, deep breathing keeps you from the shallow breathing you use to keep anxiety down. And it's very bodily, it's much more bodily oriented. You're concentrating on your breath. And survivally oriented. So, you don't want to do too much of that. And I'll get around how you can avoid too much of things. Another is the repetition of a chant or saying or something over and over and over and over. That takes you to pre-language also. That's how some people fall into fits of babbling. They throw glossolalia, but unconsciously, not good. You can use glossolalia for other purposes. That's glossolalia. But sounds like it might be a language, but it's not. It's just sound. But that's the people that have a fit, fall on the floor, babble away because they've said Jesus too many times. But you're not that kind of person, are you? Well, if you are, stop doing that. These things can be relieving, but they can be a problem. They can be a new addiction. So if you're just getting rid of the energy of feeling, but you're not really making connections, that's not safe. So I'm trying to guide you in a safe way. So how do you do that? Well, it's kind of like a diet. If you're going to eat healthy, a lot of color on the plate helps. A diversity of things and more vegetables than meat. And you can go to a dietitian and find out these things. Some carbohydrates, but certainly not all, and be careful with the sugar. So if you have a variety of things on your plate, that automatically helps you to not overdo one of the food groups, right? Even though their diets recommend this. Don't do those things. Talk to a real dietitian. Thank you. Talk to your doctor, please. But, yeah. So, when you're doing all of these techniques, these things that I'm talking about, together, and they're directed toward your feelings, to the feeling you, the experiencing you, to help that you feel better. Well, it tends to be a proper diet. Introspection practice is kind of like a diet that's balanced. It needs to be balanced. And so if you're doing all of these things together, then it tends to be balanced. But like with the food groups, do more verbal than non-verbal. Don't delve into that too deeply, because the things there that can be open are deeper. You need a lot of work before you can fully get there. So use that like salt and pepper. But in some of these cases, if you're having night terrors, you already very much overloaded. If you're suffering from PTSD and night terrors and things like this, you need outside help. Get the best that you can find and make sure that you feel comfortable with that person. It's called seeking a professional. But you can help yourself quite a bit with the things that I'm talking about. Again, it's a diet. You don't want to do your whole life introspecting. You have a life to live. So if you see things are not being accomplished in your life, you do too much of it. Okay? That's quite possible. So this change comes slowly, just like losing weight or gaining or getting thin. It's a slow process. So don't feel bad. Don't worry. Don't have bad self-esteem. When you need self-esteem anyway, dogs will be quite happy, and they have very little self-esteem going on. Not in any kind of, in every way, I'm getting better and better kind of craziness. They don't have that. They can be quite happy. So you can have that and be quite happy. You can be a happy animal, which in fact you are. We are animals. With a very unique and advanced social intelligence. Other animals can be quite intelligent as well, but it has to do with what helps them to survive. That doesn't mean their intelligence is inferior. It just is what they need to survive. We need society, so we have a social intelligence. Well, I hope this hasn't been too awfully rambling, and I hope you got something out of it. I'm not a perfect person, and neither is anybody else, and don't let them tell you they are. If they do, we're on the other way. The only real glue is all of us working together in love. We need each other. And you need you. Do a little introspection. Do a little self-love. In that complex kind of a way. And you can change. And this is what happens when you do, as I sign out here, I give what I call my gospel of change. And that's a very simple formula. To what degree you have felt what happened to you, to that degree you know what you've lost. To the degree that you know what you've lost, to that degree you're able to grieve. To the degree you're able to grieve, to that degree you are able to move on from that loss. And to that degree you're able to forgive yourself and others. And as you increase this level of forgiveness, you will find those times when your actions were harmful to yourself or others, usually because of helplessness. And at that time, to that degree that you've done all these other things, you can have remorse. And here's the good news. When you have those tears of remorse, you're no longer, to some degree, that person who did those things. You're a new person. And in fact, there was never a person in you that was a core unchanging element. But that's a little deep. We can talk about that on another occasion. Have a great life. Take care of yourself. Love really is the answer, even when you're looking within.